Webinars. So we use the podcast to attract people to our business. And then we use webinars to do a couple of things. But in this particular instance, I'm going to show you how we use webinars to sell things. So we use webinars to, get people into our programs and our products. But you can use webinars to educate. You can use webinars to nurture. So tomorrow morning, I'm running a webinar at 7 o'clock my time because we have customers all over the world, and that's a training webinar. That's actually for our existing students. It's a coaching call training webinar. But this system here I'm going to show you, this process here, is for taking those people who are visiting your podcast or your blog, getting them on a webinar and selling from that webinar. I'm not going to go through the sales psychology. I'm just going to walk you through the system of exactly what all the moving parts. So webinars are great for expert positioning. It's kind of weird, because most people won't actually run a webinar for whatever reason, but usually it's some kind of deep-seated fear they have of, the sky falling in and, ending up homeless if they run a webinar, which I promise you won't happen. But because most people just won't run a webinar, there's a great opportunity for any of us who are prepared to get out of our kind of nervousness just for 5 minutes and run a webinar, because people instantly think you're fascinating for running a webinar. It's like podcasting or publishing any kind of information online. So I think webinars are great for expert positioning, and they're also great for closing sales. If you can teach and add heaps of value on a webinar and then say, hey, well, this is what I got. If you like what I'm giving away for free, this is what I got behind the paywall. It must be more valuable than the free stuff. They're great for closing deals on leverage rather than doing it one-on-one. So here's, you want to see a really sexy, modern, new age tool for mapping out processes? Yeah? It's called a whiteboard and some markers. So this is how I actually map out all of my processes these days. I've got a whiteboard that's about as long as this. Actually, the whiteboard's probably about the same size as this. It's whiteboard, a stick-on whiteboard. It's actually from a company called whiteyboard.com.au, whiteyboard.com.au. They came out to my office. I'm going to tell you a quick story, right? And I tweeted this the other day. I don't care what business you're in the customer service business. Because over the last sort of 5 to 6 years, everything has gone online, and people, initially when we started doing business online, everyone forgot about customer service. So everyone kind of was expecting these automated responses. Now when I send emails to people, like our customers who join our program, and I actually send them a manual email, they kind of email me back and go, I'm not sure if this is really you, Troy, who reads these emails, but if it is, I just wanted to say, and I email them back. If they're in Australia and their mobile phone number's on their contact record card, I pick up Skype and ring them. And they answer the phone. Oh, hello, Paul speaking. Oh, g'day, Paul, it's Troy here from WP Elevation. And they go, what? Is that really you? They kind of don't expect that there are people behind these internet companies. Where was I going with this? So I got on, I was researching big whiteboard, and I got on Google and I found this company called Whiteyboard. And they had this little pop-up chat widget on the, those really annoying pop-up chat widgets on the website. And it popped up, and this guy said, oh, it's Matt here from Whiteyboard. Can I help you? And I'm like, oh, this will be good. And I went, oh, yeah, Matt, can you tell me a little bit about blah, blah, blah? And he said, oh, yeah. And he told me a little bit about it. And I was like, oh, this chat robot or agent's obviously been really well trained. And then anyway, we kept chatting. It turns out he was driving around Melbourne and he was monitoring the chat widget on his phone. And he said, oh, mate, I'll be in your area on Friday. Do you want me to come out and have a look? And I'm like, really? This is amazing. I'm talking to a dude on a website. 2 days later, he was in my office, measured up, installed the whiteboard. Like, customer service was just astronomical. Anyway, I digress. So now I use this whiteboard in my office to map out all these processes. And I draw kind of detailed processes of how it's going to work before we open Infusionsoft or before we open ClickFunnels. We do it all on the whiteboard first. So this process turned into this. So the first thing you need when you run a webinar is a registration page. Yeah? And I'm going to talk about tools a little bit later on in the day, but don't worry about the tools right now. But you need a registration page. And then you're just going to drive people to that registration page however you want. Your own list of people, email, Twitter, pay-per-click advertising, partners, affiliates, whatever. Drive people to a registration page. Now, I've actually done this in the B2B space. As a digital marketing consultant, I've partnered with accounting firms to run webinars for the accounting firms' clients to teach them a little bit about digital marketing. So don't think that this can just be done in the internet marketing space. This can be done, HubSpot are a good example of running great educational webinars. So you need a registration page. And you know, at a high level, you guys know how this works, right? You need a registration page. They register. They end up on a webinar page, right? At some point, either right then they can watch yesterday's replay, or they can, you know, go through and tomorrow or the next day they actually get on the webinar. And then from the webinar, you'll send them to an order form. That's a very bad picture of an order form. And they'll fill in the order form and they'll buy your product, and then they end up on a confirmation page or a thank you page, right? Well, there's a few, if you think of this as like plumbing in the business and you tip water into the registration page, there's lots of holes here. There are lots of holes where the water can leak. So I try and plug as many holes as possible because I don't like people leaking out of my funnel. So what happens if they don't opt in on the registration page? Then we get our friend Charles here to drop some Facebook pixels on that page, and we retarget them and we follow them around Facebook, reminding them to come back and register for that amazing webinar that they were thinking about registering for. Yep, you all know how that works. What happens if they're on the webinar but they don't buy? So what we do is, if someone watches less than half the webinar, and we'll track that using Wistia, for example, we'll run Wistia with Infusionsoft and we'll work out how much of the video they've watched. If they've watched less than half the webinar, then we send them an email that just drives them back to the webinar. We know you didn't watch it. What happened? Did the internet drop out? Or, you know, did you get busy? Come back and watch it. We won't actually say that. We'll frame it a little better than that. If they've watched between 50 and 100% of the webinar, then we'll send them a different email that drives them back to a different recording. Because I don't want to drive them back here if they've watched 70% of it, right? I want to drive them to a different video. So let's say in this webinar, I'm teaching 3 overarching topics. I'm teaching the importance of, and I'm just going to use this as an example, right? In this webinar, I'm teaching the importance of producing a podcast to position yourself as an authority, the importance of running webinars to close deals, and then the importance of systemizing your premium newsletter delivery, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. Well, if they've already watched 70% of the webinar, I know that they've got the first 2 points, but they missed the third one. So I'm going to drive them back to a video which is different, and it's just going to talk about the one benefit that they missed. Say, hey, Paul, it's great that you could be on the webinar the other day. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. In this video, I'm just going to give you a bit more advanced training on the delivery of your premium newsletter. I'm not going to get all weird and go, I know you didn't watch that bit, so I'm retargeting you, because that's a bit spooky, right? But I'm just going to say, hey, I just want to give you some more, go deeper on that thing that I know you missed, right? Just give them some more free training. And then guess what I'm going to do from this video here? I'm going to drive them back to that sales page, okay? And then if they still don't buy, I'm going to send them another email which drives them to another video which goes deep on one of the other benefits in the video, yeah? And again, that is going to drive them back to the sales page. Now, what happens at this point if they don't buy? Well, it would be a bit weird for me to continue that conversation. It's like asking a girl out on a date and she says no 3 times. It's best to move on, just for those that haven't figured that out yet, okay? Or at least give it a week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them an email off to something else that I'm going to talk about that they might be interested in, based on what they've originally signed up for. So for example, I'll give you a real example. In our business, in the business coaching program that we run for WordPress consultants, there are 6 overarching topics that we talk about. And most people come to us because they want to learn how to write better proposals. But some come to us because they want to scale up their team. They want to know how to, you know, employ or outsource staff. Well, if that's what they're interested in, there's no point me talking to them about how to write great proposals and put their fees up, because they might be going, dude, I've got so much work, I don't need more work, I need to build my team. Your message is wrong, you've lost me. So you've got to get specific about what you talk about to who based on what they've indicated they want. Does this make sense? Yeah? Okay. We'll do some Q&A at the end.